Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the City Council chambers. Before we begin the council meeting this evening, we're going to open the a public hearing regarding tax abatement, issuance of bonds and tax abatements, general obligation bonds. So I'll open the public hearing at this time. The purpose is the City of Virginia, the Economic Development Authority called VEDA, is looking to issue taxable general obligation bonds, tax abatement bonds, to establish $300,000 revolving loan fund for the purpose of downtown redevelopment. So the city anticipates the bonds will be structured with a 10-year term, debt service of approximately $40,000 per year. It is anticipated part of the annual VEDA levy, which is 0.01813% of the city's estimated market value, will be used to make annual bond payments, and a preliminary bond schedule is included in the council's packet this evening. So I think there are approximately 305 parcels that are being considered in this downtown redevelopment area, including the assistance with private development of approximately 32 units of residential housing. So there's some additional information here to provide, but I think our bond counsel, George Eilertson, is the managing director of Northland Securities. He's making the trip up here, and at this time, I'd like to call upon Mr. Eilertson to come forward and give us some more information and a more detailed accounting of the bonds and how we're going to proceed. Good morning, Mr. Eilertson. Good evening, excuse me. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor.
Green. Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Sorry about that. The mayor gave a very comprehensive introduction, hit the high points there. Certainly as noted, the purpose of the bond issue is for downtown redevelopment. It's certainly not the only source of funding. There's expected to be dollars from IRRB, perhaps DEED coming in to provide a greater pot of money. So this would be the pot that the city will provide. And as the mayor noted, this would be a bond issue structured over 10 years. The VEDA levy, part of that levy would come in to pay debt service on the bonds. So the purpose of this hearing is one of the statutory requirements. You have to hold the public hearing before you can grant the tax abatement. Tonight, you don't have a resolution granting the abatement following the public hearing. That will come at a later point. Bond counsel from Freiberg or Buchanan wants the city to have an actual project in hand before you pass that resolution granting the abatement. So again, tonight is just meeting that statutory requirement of holding a public hearing, and certainly at a later date, once we have that first project in hand. Certainly you've got on your agenda tonight, hiring an administrator or going out for proposals rather for an administrator of the downtown fund and downtown project. At that point, we'll go out, submit proposals or send out proposals to the banks. Hopefully we'll get good interest from the local community banks on this financing. I expect that we would be looking at a financing at the end of September or the first part of October. Britt can direct me on timing on that. Certainly if we've got a project coming forward sooner than later, we'll speed that financing timeline up a little bit. So Mayor, members of the council, that's the purpose tonight. Certainly can address any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Britt, did you have anything you'd like to add? No, okay. Any councils have any questions or comments before we go to the general public for any comments they may have? Seeing none.
Mayor,
Yes, Councilor
I
Baraboo.
have one question. George, when we go out to the banks on this and go for proposals for the bond and we don't have a project in hand, is there a time length they'll hold that rate for us, or are we going to actually wait until we get that first project to go to the bank?
Right, the expectation is that we would wait until there's a project that's filled out the application, and then we would send out
Okay.
the documents to the banks.
Okay, so maybe we should start pushing because the interest rate's so good right now.
Well, certainly, we hope that we'll be able to push that timeline along because, for one, interest rates are favorable.
Yes, thank you. And there's an application process for the public or within the downtown district to come in and take a look, meet with our city administrator, Britt C. Bennis, and Britt will guide any individual who's interested in some tax abatement bonds for their project in downtown, and we will consider that. Once we have a project in place, we can move forward with some financing and accelerate that process as we speak. So this is more of an informational venue, as George indicated, is required by state statute to hold this meeting and advise the general public that we are considering issuing these tax abatement bonds to help with the downtown revitalization and help businesses and 32 residences, which has been identified moving forward to bring vitality and more economic development within the downtown. Now, is anybody that's sitting in the audience this evening would like to come up and make a comment or have any questions for Mr. Eilertson or our city council or our staff with respect to this public hearing regarding the bond issues? Okay, do we have any written comments or questions that have been submitted, Pam? No, we have not. You have not. Okay. No other questions from the council? Thank you, Mr. Eilertson, for your presentation. Nothing from our city staff. I don't have any more questions, nothing from the audience. So that being said, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Moved by Councilor Baraboo. Is there support? Support by Councilor Barnzelli. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Move right on to the Council General. I'll call the council meeting to order at 5:39 p.m. Today's date is Tuesday, August 13th, 2019. Pam, would you please take the roll call?
Baraboo,
Present.
Reedley. Here. Paulson. Here. Beyondich. Present. Johnson.
Here.
Baranzelli.
Here.
Cuffey.
Here. Would everyone please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll move to item 4 on the agenda, which is the public forum. This is a time where anyone from the audience would like to address the council this evening is welcome to come up and make a comment or have any questions for the council as we move forward with this meeting. Is there anyone in the audience at this point in time that would like to come up and address the council? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 5, which is the consent agenda. The following items will be enacted by one motion unless a councilor or a citizen of the City of Virginia requests that the items be considered separately. Item 5.1 is the approval and corrections of the minutes of the regular meeting that was held on July 9th, 2019, and the special City Council meeting that was held on July 15th, July 16th, July 19th, July 30th, and August 1st of 2019. Item 5.2 is the adoption of Finance Resolution number 19-015, the schedule of bills. Item 5.3 is approve the transient license for Nancy Kwiatkowski, doing business as Jew's Walk and Roll Kitchen, Oriental Food Service. Item 5.4, approve the temporary liquor license for Iron Range Partnership for Sustainability on August 24th, 2019. Item 5.5, approve the following travel requests. 5.5A, Jacob Ketchel from the Fire Department to attend the fire code requirements September 4th through the 6th, 2019 in Little Falls, Minnesota at a cost of $452.10, which is grant reimbursable. Item 5.5B, Henry Trunk and Jake Roskoski, the Police Department officers to attend the Field Training Officer Program August 19th through the 23rd in Duluth, Minnesota at a cost of $778 each. This is in the department budget. Item 5.5C, Nicholas Grivna from the Police Department to attend the 2019 Minnesota Canine Competition August 17th, 2019 in Corcoran, Minnesota at no cost. Item 5.6, approve the pay estimate number 1 to Casper Construction for the Midway Drive construction project in the amount of $243,074.48. 5.7, approve the pay estimate number 1 to Mesaba Bituminous for the 12th Avenue West Improvement Project in the amount of $105,863.15. Item 5.8, approve the 3.2 off-sale malt liquor license for the Apple Green Midwest LLC, doing business as Freedom Value Number 3, located at 202 8th Street South. And finally, 5.9, approve the cigarette license for Apple Green Midwest LLC, doing business as Freedom Value Number 3. And the last entry into the consent agenda is approve the transit merchant license for Mitch Kerfeld, doing business as the Northern Divide Bar and Eatery. That would be under 5.10. So this is the consent agenda as requested. Do I have a motion from the council?
I'll move to approve the consent.
Moved by
I'll
Councilor
support.
Paulson to approve the consent agenda as read, seconded by Councilor Baraboo. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Item 6, appearances. We have an appearance this evening, and it's really an honor and a privilege to be working with these individual professionals and companies on the new MEC project, the Miners Event and Convention Center, and I welcome DSGW Architects and Kraus Anderson Construction Company, a construction manager at risk, to provide us an update on the proposed Miners Entertainment and Convention Center. It's under item 6.1, their appearances, and the representative apparently is going to be DSGW, Mr. Wedge and Mr. Grazina. Please step forward and please announce your name for the record and welcome.
Sure. Good evening, Mayor and Councilors. I'm John Grazina with DSGW Architects.
Eric Wedge with DSGW Architects.
Welcome, thank you.
So what we'd like to do tonight is just give everybody an update as to the progress of the project. And again, Eric and I with DSGW, we have folks from Kraus Anderson Construction, and they'll talk a little bit about the budget. Another major component that's ISG, represented on the board. They're the folks who have been working with you to help program the space, and most importantly, try to figure out what it's going to cost to operate it, and really importantly, what your revenue is going to be, because they need to go hand in hand. So, just, today is a snapshot as to where we're at with the project. In the past, probably close to 6 weeks, we've done a lot of studying, and we've done a little bit of backtracking. Part of it had to do with once we all established what the budget was going to be, we needed to tie that into how big can the building be. And part of that question just kind of made us do what we have to do, and that is to study the building, study the program, determine what the right size is for the different spaces that need to go into the space, how many people it needs to hold, et cetera, et cetera. Part of that journey took us to, thinking that we might not be able to do a brand new building. Maybe we might have to remodel the miners and put in an addition. We studied that a little bit, but the more we looked at the program and the more we looked at right sizing the spaces, we got to a point where we said, okay, you can see for the building area, we're at 112,000 square feet. And at that, it basically gets everything that we needed in that space to hit the pro forma. And that's the thing, as we fiddle with the spaces and trying to figure out what the right size is, we worked very closely with ISG and Kraus Anderson to make sure we weren't upending the cart, so to speak, as to the revenue you wanted to generate from all those spaces. So we're at a good spot. And in talking with the ISG folks, they've reviewed this, and it really didn't affect your revenue at all, which is a good thing. On a positive side, it helped your operations because now you have less square footage, you have less space to heat and air condition, so that's a good thing from a long-term sustainability standpoint. With this sheet here, what we'd like to do is just hit the waypoints as to what's going to be in the building. I think there's always lots of questions asked about that. First of all, we have two arenas that we're calling Arena Number 1 and Arena Number 2. Arena Number 1 being the main space. We're going to have a fixed seating capacity for 1,500. In addition to that, the way the arena is going to be designed, there's going to be a concourse around the top that's going to double as a walking track. And so on that concourse, you can put 300 standing. And then there's going to be some lobbies with glass looking down onto the arena. You could have 200 people in there. The reason we're telling you that is, to use a hokey saying that we use all the time, you don't design a church for Christmas and Easter. And the same thing goes with seating in an arena. We want to design for what you need for your general admission on any daily basis or any daily game. But on those events where you're going to pack the rafters, there's other ways that you can get people in there. Yes, they're going to be standing or they're going to be in the lobby, but I think that's kind of the aura of that sort of event. The point being is you're going to be able to get a nice crowd. It's going to be fixed seating, and with the sheet of ice. Arena Number 2 is going to be more of the secondary sheet of ice. It'll have 300 seating, and again, that'll be fixed seating, smaller venue, but again, being able to use for small spectator spaces. And Eric's going to present some floor plans when we're through, so you can kind of see how all these things are laying out. But right now, I just want to go through kind of the parts and pieces that are going in there. You're going to see there's a whole series of locker rooms going in here, and there's been lots of discussions. I know Eric's been involved in lots of discussions with the types of locker rooms and the quantities, and again, we're going to have lockers for varsity, for teams, for changing, so different sizes, different configurations, whether it's varsity having a game or whether you're having a Pee Wee tournament over the weekend where you got to have 8 teams being able to change in a room. In addition to that, we're going to have lobby and pre-event spaces, and again, just general areas where people can be congregating prior to the game or during the game. Again, we envision big viewing areas where you can actually sit in the lobby and look out onto the ice and watch what's going on out there. Another big part of the program was the community fitness spaces. There's a cardio space going in and 2 fitness rooms going in, so for a total of 3 fitness areas. Again, the walking track, again, that's going to be the concourse going around the primary arena will be the walking track. And that's kind of the arena part of this. The other second big piece of this is going to be the entertainment convention event center. And so with that, there's an event center, and there's another sheet after this. There's been lots of questions about how many people can be in the event center. I won't answer that right now because it's depending on how you seat people or how you use it, you can, at a minimum, we can put 500 in there. It can go up from there, and I'll get into that in a little bit. In addition to that, we're going to have 2 meeting rooms that double as conference rooms. And of course, all these spaces will be divisible by doors. The way ISG has been writing your performa is the event center can be subdivided into 4 spaces, so potentially you could rent out 4 of those spaces, again, going in towards your revenue. And again, with the event center, that will itself have its pre-event lobby that, again, people can congregate, whether it's a wedding, whether it's a conference. So, I think that, and of course, in addition to that, we have the mechanicals, we have the, space for the ice plant and the Zamboni and those sorts of things. But all told, those are the major components that are going into the building. And, those are all the things that tie into your performa and will be basically the foundation of your operations and revenue for the project. In addition to that, from a site standpoint, we're looking at parking 500 cars. And again, we have some site plans, and we'll get into some really nice opportunities you're going to have with the site, not only for this building, but future development. Because as this whole entire site opens up, especially with what's going on with the school program and project, that being the football field being eventually relocated, Virginia gets a wonderful opportunity for some outlots and some very, very good potential for private development in and around this whole space. With that, so the budget is $32 million, and maybe I'll just let Steve Trudeau from Krauss Anderson maybe just touch upon that real quickly.
Steve, for your name for the record, and welcome.
Thank you. Steve Trudeau with Krauss Anderson Construction. Thanks, John. Good layout of kind of an overview. I know Eric will get into some more of those details, but as we looked at the budget of $32 million, that's a project budget total. Breaking that down a little bit for construction dollars, that'll equate to about 28 million. Looked at the square footage of 110 to 112,000 square feet to fit within that. Our recent historical data for like and similar facilities seems to fit well within that. So it's about 4 million in soft costs that would cover architecture, engineering fees, other things that you would put in place, contingencies to fall total within the $32 million budget. So about 28 million on hard construction, sort of the at-risk portion that you mentioned earlier.
Good, thank you.
Maybe just real quickly, because there's always been lots of questions asked, especially with the main ballroom. How many people can we house? And so right now, if you were to put tables and chairs banquet style, it's set up for 500. So that's your minimum number of people you can put in there. But again, with all banquet centers, and again, you can look at the chart, but you can see that if we go into theater style, where say you're having a conference and you're setting up foldable chairs, and you can, 700 is a minimum number, you could probably even go more than that. So again, you're getting a lot of great capacity in this space. But again, it's, in talking to ISG, they said that's a great number, it's a sweet number, and they keep cautioning us all that, listen, if you get a big event, you got those two big arenas that you can set that whole flat floor up for banquet seating also. So you have a lot of opportunities and a lot of ways to host different events from a small scale to a very large. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Eric, and we have some conceptual plans that we're starting to kind of flesh out to get a flavor and feel, so take it away, Eric.
Sorry about that.
Not that hard, though.
Just don't want my crutches to fall over. Thank you kindly for having me today. So, the conceptualized floor plans in front of you, these are conceptualized. We will be meeting with the user groups to get more impact in from them, but it does meet the 112,000 square feet that John had talked about. So, I have my little laser pointer here. I'm going to go through it doesn't show up on the screen. The first floor plan, which is on the left-hand side of your sheet, it does show in the salmon color the ballroom. So that would be the ballroom as you enter the pre-event lobby space. I think one of the important things to talk about here is that we do have 3 points of entry so that this can be truly multiple use. You can be using the ballroom while the arenas are being used. You can be using multiple functions all at one time. So the salmon colored is the ballroom and conference spaces. There are some park and rec offices in that space. The tan areas are all that pre-function, that lobby space that we talked about. The two main blue are rink number 1 and rink number 2. So you can see that rink number 1 is a smaller rink that would have our 300 seating capacity, and rink number 2, or I have that reversed, rink number 2 is the smaller one, rink number 1 is our larger rink, our main arena that would have the fixed seating for 1,500 with 200 to be able to be put in the lobby to oversee games, and then because we do have a concourse around the top, we could have 300 seating, so you could get close to 2,000 people watching a big rivalry hockey game that this community has from time to time. The light blue areas in between on the first floor are all the support spaces or the locker rooms, and we've had lots of discussions because of varsity, junior varsity, girls hockey, the potential for a junior team, and then the need for the youth hockey locker rooms and your figure skating program. So those are all accounted for in the space between the two arenas. It allows for a lot of flexibility in the fact that the kids can get ready and they have direct access to one arena or the other arena. When we did all of our tours, and we toured several rinks, and we'd like to take you on another tour of a rink in the not too distant future, this is the ideal layout of having the lockers in between both sheets of ice so that the kids have the minimal distance and they're kind of separated from the lobby space. We anticipate back by the Zamboni area, the ice plant area, having a player's entrance so that even parents could drop kids off towards the back of the rink and then move forward to the front for the games. So that's the first floor. The first floor, I guess there's some toilet spaces that are marked with T, and then some concession spaces right off of the lobby, and a stairway that would get you up to the second floor. When you get to the second floor, this is where we would top load your primary arena. So you go up a stairway or an elevator, you get to that secondary concourse area where we could have more seating and more views into the arena. And that's where we have our fitness studios. The fitness studios would be accessed off of that concourse. And that tan concourse also doubles as our walking track. So it does go completely around the arena. We are looking at just doing seating similar to what's in the minors now, just on each side. I know at one time we had talked about a bowl of seating going all the way around, kind of like the Heritage Hockey Center, one of them that we toured, or the like the Xcel Energy Center is, but we found that we don't need the end seating, which isn't really your primary views anyways. So we've just dedicated that to a concourse walkway. And then the last piece is just we need some mechanical space. So that's the darker blue that says mechanical, and that handles our electrical needs and our air handling needs and things like that. It's probably sized a little bit larger than what we're going to need, but when we get into the details, we'll right size that too. So. Are there any questions on the conceptualized floor plan at this time?
Yes, let's go around, starting on my left, Counselor Paulson.
So Eric, after I attended a cable commission meeting, there was a couple questions that some of the commissioners had regarding a potential public access cable entrance or location, maybe around like that park and rec. I mean, this is the first time I've kind of seen the conceptual design, but has that been discussed at all at your level or with you, or?
Yeah, we have in the program, the detailed program, we have a press box that will be put as part of this conceptualized plan. We have a viewing platform for cable TV too, and it's built into the bleacher side of the seating.
So that would include like their storage, and if the public wanted to come in and actually utilize some of the equipment, would that?
We have some generalized storage, but specifically the media equipment for the cameras and that.
We're thinking like more like accessibility for our community.
Okay.
So I don't know if that was part of
And
it.
we're looking at putting storage completely on rink number 2 underneath the whole bleacher system, similar to what you guys currently have at the minors. So there would be ample storage for items like that could be accessible. And we do also have some general storage rooms that are built into the details of these larger spaces.
Okay, so nothing like a media room where students would, kind of thinking ahead, pre-thinking of with the school and the collaborative process and then.
Oh, well, absolutely. I think the banquet room will be set up for that, and we have those 2 conference breakout rooms off of the conference centers. Those could absolutely be set up for
Okay.
what you're talking
All right.
about.
Thank
So
you for that.
thank you. I didn't understand your question
Thank
at
you,
first.
sorry, thanks, Eric.
Thank you, Counselor Paulson. Counselor Freely.
Thank you, Mayor. Just really quickly, I don't know if you know this off the top of your head, but what's the current seating of the arena?
I do
minor.
believe that Chris Clark gave that to me. I can get specific because I do have that, but I
think
know
it's-
that our big rivalry hockey game between Evelyn and Virginia this year, we sat about 1,800 people in that arena, and we still had a little bit of open seating in the blind end corners and kind of where the band and the cheerleaders set up. So I would say the current minors is somewhere around 2,000, and that's what
It
we're.
was 2004.
Okay, thank you, Charlie.
So with this configuration, it would be comparable to being able to accommodate similar sized crowds then,
It would be, but again, keep in mind, there'd be 200 people in the lobby and 300 people standing.
right? Just a different.
But when we
configuration.
toured Crookston's Arena, and we toured the Heritage Arena, some of the most prized seats were standing on the rail up above the top bowl looking down.
And in some arenas, they have along the rail places you can set down your drink or your fries or whatever. Would we have that kind of possibility?
We'd look at building probably like this with a top on it that you could set down a pop or something like
Just
that.
for comfort for
For
people that are
comfort.
standing.
Some of them that we did tour, they actually had portable bar stools that they could bring in for those events, or somebody could actually kind of sit down at the rail.
And then the 32 million, that includes the already appropriated 12 million, correct?
My understanding is you guys have $20 million from the sales tax and $12 million from the state. If we get your blessing today on the concept, we are going to be submitting the pre-design to the state for their review.
So that 32 million is all in.
Correct. Yep.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Oh, thank you, Counselor Freely. Counselor Bearable?
That brings me to just a question on the rink 1 and 2, the locker space between. Projection is to start looking at AAA hockey coming up here. Are those locker rooms going to be big enough for adult individuals also?
They're set up for high school, and we will have a dedicated one that'll be, until you get a junior team, it could be used as a flex locker room. But yes, we have a junior team locker room.
I'm not
planned.
talking about having a home team like that. I'm talking about having events where you bring in a number of AAA teams. We've talked about that, and that can happen because there's interest already in that, and that'll bring crowds into Virginia. Are those locker rooms going to be big enough for that?
Absolutely.
Okay, okay. Then I have a question of our staff, if I may, on this. What happened to our $42 million? Why were we $10 million short? My projection on the sales tax gives us plenty of money to do a larger venue. Why are we cutting it back by $10 million? And I need that answer, because nobody's been able to tell me that answer.
George is a great resource. George from Northland Securities is here, and he's prepared to
Unless
talk
these
about
guys
that.
are making too much money on the other end of it, and then their percentages are too high for what they're getting out of this deal.
Mr. Eilertson, could you give us a little bit of a
Thank you, Mayor.
synopsis? Thank
Well,
you.
there's costs, George, but right now the costs are cheap.
Good question about the extra 10. If there was the ability to borrow at 0%, that 10 would reappear. The interest cost on a $20 million bond issue over a 20-year term, that's largely what takes up that difference.
On what percentage rate are you figuring for the bond? Answer me that question. What's your projected rate that you're figuring on right now? Because the school district, let me give you an example. The school district just went out and borrowed a huge amount of money. And they saved with their current interest rates 20% on what they were projecting at 4%. They got it at 2.45% interest. So what are you projecting it at now? If we go out early and do some of this preliminary projection,
Yes, and based upon the current bond market, we've a 20-year bond term. The estimated interest rate is in the ballpark of 2.6 to 2.8%.
okay.
Now, where interest rates go for the balance of the year could trend positive towards your overall budget number, because as interest rates go lower, it results in a net larger amount for construction. But
So what if, George, if we were to take some of that tax money, the sales tax money, because here's why I'm asking this question, okay? St. Louis County has a 0.5% sales tax in the city of Virginia. They generate $946,000 a year and 0.5%, so double that on 1%. That's 2.8 or $1.8 million. What are we doing for a payment per year on this? I have not seen that with your projection yet.
good question, and that could certainly be a conversation for tonight, Mayor, if you'd like, or
We can do it another day,
can
George, because
certainly-
we're going to be moving on with this further down the road.
But at present, I think we're taking a little bit more conservative approach with the sales tax. I know city staff and others would like to, pick a number that's a conservative number for what the city has historically received or is projected to receive on the 1%, and not face a situation where if there's an economic downturn that we're levying tax dollars citywide. So we'll certainly help in that regard, Mayor, to look at additional.
And I'm not lying about these figures, because I have an in to get these figures from St. Louis County, so that's what they've told me that they generate per year. And then they go out and leverage that money against the bonding. Can we do a smaller bond to start with, and then the next year go out and leverage for a second one?
What we've helped city staff with just some preliminary projections based upon 1.4 to 1.5 million dollars of annual debt service. with the anticipation that hopefully your sales tax revenues exceed that.
So you're going to present us a sheet with all these numbers in the future here?
Directed by the mayor and staff, yes.
The mayor and staff, I don't care what they do, it's the council's decision.
Yes, it's the intention when we get closer to bond sale to have this information prepared for the entire council.
We have it then? Okay.
We can't.
So I'm asking this question
Yep,
too
Yep, the
prematurely.
sales tax goes into effect January 1st, so we wouldn't want to time the bond sale so that the first payment is due when we're getting the first revenues in from the sales tax.
Okay, all right. Okay, you answered my question, Brett. Thank you. George, I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
Thank you, Counselor Bearable. Counselor Johnson?
Mayor, appreciate the opportunity last spring to tour all of those buildings and get a really good idea of what we could have. And I just want to remind the professionals sitting in the audience tonight that I really want to make sure you're listening to our staff too. And I know that's one of the groups that you meet with, Brian, but also the direct line staff. One of the biggest concerns we heard on the tours was from the staff saying there's no storage. We don't have anywhere to put anything. When we're switching out shows, one show has to wait while the other show unloads, so they can't be loading and unloading at the same time, then thereby using our, creating a vacuum of dead time for our event venue. So I know that, Eric, you were with us on those trips, so you were aware of that, but I just want to remind you of that, that it's really important that we look at the efficiencies and talk to the staff about, one of the things we've talked about is having the portable floors that can cover the ice, so the ice doesn't have to come in and out and in and out and in and out. Making sure that the storage for that is in a practical place so that it can be brought in and brought out and not have to go, I can foresee this being stored on one side and it has to go out of the building and around or something like that. So those are the kind of things that I am entrusting the staff, Brian with Parks and Rec, to be watching. But overall, I really appreciate your design plans, and I'm really excited about this for the city and for the region. It really is going to be nice to be able to hold a large event when it comes to the conference side in the city of Virginia and have all of those people spending money in Virginia, hotel rooms, and in around the surrounding areas. So thank you all for your work on this. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you, Counselor Johnson. And I have a couple of comments, really not questions, just comments. Thank you, Eric. I had the opportunity to go on some of these trips and see some of these arenas and how they operate. Meeting with the staff, thank you for arranging that through Carl Sanderson and through DSGW to try to accomplish some goals and objectives of really the basic idea was to travel to these finds. What kind of venue do they have? What's their financial pro forma? How do they meet their debt? And how is debt carried and how is debt raised? And we're talking about this debt. We're talking about the $42 million or the $32 million. I'm going to just give you one example. The Heritage Center didn't have the money. They couldn't raise enough money. And they found a creative way for the construction company to carry some of the debt in order to help accomplish that goal and objective. So there are other options out there moving forward. But the primary reason for going down there was to tour the facility, get an idea where we're at, and ask them the really one question. If you had to do it all over again, what did you miss? What would you have done differently? What would you like to have seen in your concept as you're moving forward? And we got a lot of feedback from that. And that's all included in this concept drawing. I do believe that our professional staff that we have working for us, the DSGW and Carl Sanderson, that we've taken the opportunity to hire you because of your professionalism, your expertise in the areas of these arenas. We also make sure that we took significant recommendations as you moved with the user groups and including our Park and Rec department. I see Mike Mohar, one of our commissioners here tonight. I mean, it's important, and our Park and Rec director, Brian Sibber, who has a significant input in this regard. I think coming together as a community moving forward with a project that we can afford to build, a project that's going to be efficient and effective, that's going to provide the services that we need and expect for years to come, and also give the opportunity to build this facility so that we can draw other economic opportunities within the structure. We have the land that's available right now. We have some concepts moving forward. So I think what you're asking for us tonight is to just take a look at this preliminary concept and give approval for the concept itself, so you can present it to the state for consideration with respect to the $12 million that we're leveraging. And that can always change. We can change that, this drawing a little bit more moving forward, depending upon whether additional monies come in or whether have you. But you want a design to present, but that design this isn't the absolute design. Things could change. Is that correct, Eric? Mr. Wedge?
Absolutely. At this stage, I would say that the plan will change as we get into the details, but the concept is there. The pinwheel concept of everything kind of revolving around the lobby and having access to the primary arenas and to the ballroom. Those main functions are always going to remain the same. We may have a janitor's closet or a different configuration of a concession stand or things like that. Those things are always going to be in flux until we get ready to put the construction documents together. But we will be back with those revisions for approval, and we will be meeting with the user groups on this concept to get their input so that we are dotting the i's and crossing the t's.
And thank you for that, Eric. And we will be including in that those user groups to the general public. We have these public hearings, giving the public another opportunity to ask questions and give their input. We've done that over time. I think you've done your due diligence. I think we've tried to cover all the bases. We'll continue to do that and be able to facilitate the project moving forward and being able to answer all those questions that Councilor Bearable and Councilor Friedlieb and Councilor Paulson and Councilor Johnson had, and that we all share moving forward. So we thank you for that. So that being Councilor Bearable?
Yeah, Eric, I'm sorry.
No problem.
This has nothing to do with the little lecture I gave before, but I see, is there not going to be, in the original concept, wasn't there going to be a catered kitchen space for all events to be catered? I don't see it on this anyplace. Is it just not listed?
It's just not listed. It's in the salmon area above the ballroom. You see an arrow that goes to the Park and Rec office.
Okay.
It's the next big square box
okay.
above it.
Yeah,
It's
I
the
just didn't want that
kitchen,
missed.
and next to that is some storage for the ballroom. So those
Okay.
functions are there. The kitchen is placed there so that it could easily cater food out to the arena floor too,
'Cause I know
other
we're
than the
not-
ballroom. So,
I know we're not talking about a full kitchen, it's just for catering, so,
correct.
okay.
We'll get into all those minutia of details of what type of kitchen equipment and that with your staff. So,
You're just asking us tonight to approve the general concept, the concept itself, and the details will be forthcoming.
correct.
Thank you. Okay, any other, yes, Councilor Paulson?
Thank you, Mayor. I just have one further maybe question or comment on both concept designs on option AA and double B. The parking lot is basically in the same spot. And does it run north? It seems like it's running north really kind of a long distance from either, the west or east side on the building.
Okay, so we can go into the site plan to specifically
don't
answer
mind.
that question. So you're looking at option AA here?
Either or, I mean, I guess with AA, it looks like you have an opportunity if at any point you could expand the site further north, which then that parking, I could understand that, but I just wanted to maybe understand the length of the parking.
We're bound on the north by the creek. There's a wetland. We had that, SCH did a wetland delineation. We just received that last week. So, we couldn't expand much further to the north for the arena, for the parking. But if you also notice, there are some red lines on your plan. And for the proposed arena location, we are pretty much right up against your property line. There's a goofy trapezoidal piece of property that I believe is owned by Gethsemane Lutheran Church. So you would want to do some property acquisition. And what we tried to do is work within the confines of the property that the city owns currently and not get into saying, okay, if this concept only works if you do property acquisition. But it may be in the future in the city's best interest to acquire that property for future expansion.
Thank you. I guess that's what I was asking you to address, like the parking maybe could wrap around then at that point.
Yeah, the gray box above in this option, is the Lutheran Social Services Group Home. So again, you would have to maybe acquire that property to be
Thank
able
you
to
for that
wrap the parking
explanation.
lot. So, yep.
Thank you, Counselor Paulson. Okay,
And go to the other site option. This was one, as long as we're talking about it, unless there are any
Yep,
other
please do. Yep.
questions relative to this. You know,
Please
this option kind of leaves the existing miners in place, which was critical in our design thought process, so that we're never going to be without an arena. You guys will have, and that, once the new arena is constructed, we would do a move over into the new arena, and then the existing arena could be raised or taken down. So, and it preserves the baseball field. And all the property along 12th Avenue and A Street, you know, could be potential for private partnership developments, hotels, restaurants that are going to want to be located near an event center to serve that. So there is a lot of green space that is preserved that could be utilized for that in the future. I guess, John, did you have anything else to say about the site plan? Okay. And the other option was to look at rotating the arena and building it basically where the practice football fields are located. There are some more questionable soils from the soil borings that were taken in that area. So the question, and we're going to keep exploring both of these options, is do we want to correct the soils now in those locations for the arena, or do we want to have a private developer come and have to do it? And there's a flip side to that, is that you might preclude a private developer from developing in those areas if the challenging soils aren't become too much for them to deal with. So we've done some GeoPeer options in the past, and we're working with Kraus Anderson to at least give you an informed decision on what that would be as an upcharge to the project to be on GeoPeers and in that location. And if it fits within the budget, that'll be a further discussion. But you know, this basically, you could utilize your existing parking lot for that faces Ewing's Field, or to the north of the existing miners. That would be your area for future commercial development of restaurants and things like that. I think personally, option AA somewhat works a little bit better, because I think your access off of the 12th Street corridor from the mall has more direct access to where those future commercial developers may want to have their type of business. So I'm going to have John or Steve go through the timeline as I'm going to sit down for a minute, so I apologize.
thank you. John, Steve?
Maybe we can just both comment. From a design standpoint, we are beginning design, as you can tell. And of course, whenever we do a design schedule, it's always up to when do we want to bid the project. And we want to bid the project February 1st. It's a tight schedule, but there's going to be a lot of construction going on in northern Minnesota in the next 2 years. So the sooner we can get to that point, the better we are for all of us. Steve, you want to comment a little bit on that?
I think that's a good scenario to understand. Really, there is a heck of a lot of construction going on in northern Minnesota coming up, and in this market, Virginia, with the school projects, some of the other county things. So we certainly want to try to get to market first if we can, and maintain that February bid time frame. You'll get the most advantageous bidding dollars competitively that way. People will be hungry. Break ground in the spring of 2020, roughly April. Go through the construction program, and it'll be a phased thing, certainly, to maintain and keep operational the existing rink. Once we can have the new rinks up and running, transfer things over, additional work to demolish the old miners arena, then ensue and patch back that site area. I'm not sure what becomes of that, parking, Eric, or development property. But certainly to try to get that wrapped up by October of 2021 and be ready for the new hockey season.
Thank you, Steve. Counselor Bearable?
Oh, no, I was just going to go forward as we need the motion on this.
Okay,
project.
before we move with that, is there any other comments or questions from the council or staff? Okay, Counselor Bearable?
Yes, I do like that preliminary design that you've put together. I think it's very efficient. I know I'm a little question the amount of space, but that's okay. I can live with that. So I will make a motion that we go forward. You need this for the state of Minnesota, correct? Move forward to the state of Minnesota with the preliminary design that has been presented to us for the new construction on this Miners Memorial Complex and Convention Center.
Thank you. Moved by Counselor Bearable. Is there support? Support by Counselor Johnson. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, move to item 7, unfinished business. We have nothing on the agenda this evening. Item 8, discussion items. Item 8.1, adopt a resolution for donation to the city dunk tank in the amount of $500. Counselor Johnson.
I will move acceptance of the donation from the Landloom Festival of $500 towards the dunk tank.
A motion by Counselor Johnson to accept the $500 donation from the Landaloon Committee for the city dunk tank in the amount of $500. Is there support? Support by Counselor Friedlieb. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 8.2, adopt a resolution for the donation to the Virginia Fire Department in the amount of $1,500.
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
Motion by Counselor Barnzelli to accept the donation in the amount of $1,500. Is there support? Support by Counselor Beyondich. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And item 8.3, adopt a resolution for all donations that will be presented to National Night Out. Moved by Counselor Friedlieb, supported by Counselor Paulson. Is there any further discussion?
Mayor,
Counselor Johnson.
would you read those people? I think it was a great event, and there was quite several hundred people there, if not more. And these people definitely deserve to be recognized. So if you wouldn't mind, sir, would you read those?
Sure.
I'll read them, sure.
Go ahead, Counselor
So
Johnson.
as listed on the resolution, Peace United Methodist Church, $75 and volunteers. Target, $500 in volunteers. True Hope Fellowship, $75 bounce house donation and volunteers. Legacy Church, bouncy house and volunteers. Northern State Bank napkins. Starkovich Distributing root beer. Dream Machines Car Show, their cars were present. Emily or El Lorenta from Advocates for Family Peace. They donated 4 bicycles, 2 scooters, and had volunteers. Radio USA was present, and they had tickets for Crayola Experience and the Aquarium at Mall of America. AEOA Transit donated transportation from our senior high-rise buildings for the evening. Schwann's Ice Cream donated a lot of ice cream. Tall Pines Ice donated ice. The Downtown Dancers presented entertainment. Perfect Disorder was the band, provided live music. Walmart gave us a $100 donation, and there were also multiple community organizations represented that really made it for a great night, not to mention the staff and the other elected officials that were there that made it a great evening.
Thank you, Counselor Johnson. What a great event, what a community coming together for that. So there is a motion to adopt the resolution in support. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 8.4, approve the reappointment of Rocky Lucarelli to the Charter Commission for a 4-year term ending August 13th, 2023.
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
Motion by Counselor Barnzelli to approve the 4-year appointment and supported by Counselor Friedlieb. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 8.5, Planning and Zoning Meeting that was held on August 5th, 2019. Item 8.51, approve the following variances for Greg Bergman, 426 15th Street North. Item 8.51A, approve a variance to allow the construction of more than one private garage structure for the parcel at 426 15th Street North on the condition that the 10 by 20 garage be removed on completion of the project with no overhead garage door on the north side of the new proposed garage and a one-year timeline on the completion of the project. Do I have a motion? Moved by Counselor Johnson. Is there support?
I'll support.
Support by Counselor Bearable. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Now, item 8.51B, approve allowing an accessory structure on the side yard of the same address with a 2.3-foot variance from the required 5-foot property line setback. And item 8.51C, approve a 247 square foot variance to the maximum 1,000 square foot allowable in order to have combined square footage of 1,247 feet for the two structures.
I'll move to approve.
Moved by Counselor Paulson. Is there support? Support by Counselor Johnson. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 8.52. Approve an extension to Asta Properties Incorporated at 125 Fifth Street South for a violation of Chapter 17 of the Virginia Property Maintenance and Preservation Code, and for the work to be completed by October 31st of 2019. This is an extension which was recommended and approved by our Planning and Zoning.
I'll support.
Moved by Counselor Freely. Is there support? Support by Counselor Bearable. Is there any further discussion? Yes, Counselor Johnson. I anticipated there would be some.
Yes, I wish there was more information about what the variance was for and what work needs to be done. And how, is this the first extension, or has there been other extensions prior to this?
First extension.
Okay, and what is it for?
It's not listed in the minutes, so I do not know.
I guess I can't support this without more information from, I wish that stuff, in the rest of our minutes, it's very detailed, and this one there's not, so I won't be supporting the extension at this time.
Okay, thank you. There was a correction order issued by our blight officer, our code official, and he wasn't able to comply within that 10-day period. They went back and inspected it, and based on all the work that needed to be done, and I know Councilor Johnson is looking for a list of those requirements, the building official gave him a recommendation to the Planning and Zoning to move forward with the extension for this to be completed no later than October 31st, 2019. Did we have a motion for that? And we had a support for that? We've had some discussion. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Paulson.
Thank you. I would agree with Counselor Johnson. I would like to see more information on this before I can give my consent.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Councilor Freely?
Do we have any information as to whether or not there was at least progress made towards the expectations that were set? There has been no work done whatsoever?
I only know what's in the minutes, and there's nothing listed in the minutes, so I don't know for sure.
On the Planning and Zoning minutes, huh?
That, to me, would say something, that at least there was progress made, efforts made, and that would assist me in making this decision, but at this point, we don't have that additional information, correct?
We do not. Although maybe we should have it, I agree, but I think I'm going to rely on, from my perspective, rely on our staff they have met with, he came to planning and zoning, they entered into some kind of a contractual agreement to make sure that this got accomplished by October October 31st. So I'm going to support this. I'd like to have the more information as well. Britt, if you could maybe get some additional information and have Pam send that to all of us. But I'm going to support moving forward. I think a plan was in place. Our staff at least met with them. They set a guideline and established to get this accomplished. We'd like to know what that is, what he has to do to have done by October the 31st. But if we don't approve the extension, then, we'll get the information and then we'll have to, the extension goes further. So I agree that we should have that information moving forward. But in the future, we'll make sure we try to provide that. Councilor Paulson.
Mayor, is it our engineering staff or is it our public works staff that goes to actually do the inspection process?
Our code official.
So it's in our engineering department, our building.
Bill
code
goes, and then he
official?
comes to the planning and zoning meetings, and then they ask him for his recommendations moving forward, and they discuss it back and forth, and they make a determination whether they're going to approve that request or not, based upon the work that needs to be done within the time frame that's established.
And I would agree with you that I rely on what the commission and the staff recommends. I just feel like we've had a few different issues in front of the council where if this is in fact a blight situation, the blight has not been taken care of. So I'd feel much more comfortable receiving more information before I say yes.
Very good, thank you. Okay, any other discussion? Councilor Barnzelli.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and councilors, I have faith in our department. He's got till October 31st to finish it. If he's not finished, engineering will go over there, and that'll be November 1st. Then he has to come back to planning and zoning and go to Plan B, but at least we got till October 31st to go forward with this in his behalf.
And if he doesn't comply, then they go to the next step on the Property Maintenance Preservation Code, and fines start to get levied. I know that it's been an issue for us in this community for a long time, that, some of these blighted properties have been addressed up to a certain point, and then all of a sudden, nothing happens, right? So we're going to make sure that does happen. In this particular case, the guideline has been established and a deadline has been established, and I think the goal and objective based on our last meeting is that if they don't comply, if that property owner doesn't comply, then they're going to immediately go with the next step because there's not going to be another extension. So that's kind of what we discussed. I'm hoping that that's the process moving forward. Thank you, Councilor Barnzelli. Is there any further discussion? There's a motion on the floor and a second to approve the extension. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Roll call, please, Pam.
Friedlieb,
Yes.
Paulson,
No.
Beyondich, Johnson,
No.
Baranzelli,
Yes.
Duffy,
Aye.
Baraboo.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-3. Thank you. Okay. We'll move to item 8.53. Approve the following regarding violations of Chapter 17 Virginia Property Maintenance Preservation Code. Item 3A, extension of required roof repair until October 1st, 2020. 3B, address numbers shall be placed on the house and garage within 15 days. Item 3C, submit a plan for alternative heating system and removal of the propane tank from the front yard by August 20th, 2019. And 3D, submit the timeline for the deck and other exterior repairs by August 20th, 2019 to the residents at 412 7th Street South. Sorry? I'm sorry, excuse me. 412 7th Avenue South. Thank you, the correction. Councilor Johnson.
I will move those 4 items.
Councilor Johnson moves for approval for item 8.53. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Councilor Friedlieb. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. And the reason I am supporting this is because in the minutes, there's a lengthy discussion of what happened, what the plans are, and what the challenges have been. So that's the information I need to make an informed decision like this. So that's why I moved the 4 items.
Yes, thank you, Counselor Johnson. Any further discussion?
Right, Mayor?
Yes, Counselor Bearable.
You know, I don't disagree with this, but, you know, this is in the conversion area for natural gas, correct? So if they haven't gotten the natural gas there yet, which it sounds like from what I read, it isn't there yet. So why cut that person off from propane until that natural gas gets there? From what I read, it hasn't gotten there yet to that house and that structure.
I think they're asking him to submit a plan to do that, submit the plan by August 20th, not to actually do it by August 20th.
But okay, but they're talking about the removal of that tank by that date, correct? From the front yard. In a temporary heating situation, what's the difference? We allow businesses to put temporary heating all over the place. We allow people when they're doing construction of homes all over the place. If they're waiting for that line to get there, that's an inconvenience to have that removed for that individual and an expense. Until that natural gas line gets to their house. And I don't think it's there yet.
Well, I don't know if it's there yet or not, but I think what the language means is, and you could look at it on a different perspective, but they just have to spit the plan for the heating system and the plan for the removal of the propane tank. So if they have a plan to put the alternative heating system in there and leave the propane tank, we want the propane tank removed as well. So submit the plan for the alternative heating system and the plan for the removal of the propane tank.
Maybe
Submit the plan.
Maybe I read that wrong then, when I heard that they want to remove by August, that tank. Did I read that wrong?
They're just asking for her plan to remove the propane tank from the front yard by August 20th.
Or just a plan?
Just the plan.
Just the
Okay,
plan.
I thought, I
correct,
misunderstood then.
Yeah, just the
Sorry.
plan.
That's okay.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Bearable. Is there any further discussion on this matter? Councilor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. And I read that the front yard is being the problem, that the tank is in the front yard and not in the backyard or side yard. That's how I read it too, that, you know, any other places that have a tank, they're not in the front yard.
We do have the fire chief here also if we have questions, but there's also a distance proximity issue. It's a little too close to structures in the front and.
So there's several issues that
There's some
are
issues
safety
with
issues.
with the
Gotcha.
tank,
Thank you.
safety issues with the tank, yes.
So, thank you. Thank you, Councilor Johnson. It's been moved and supported as to approve this timeline plan. Is there any further discussion?
I've got one more.
Councilor Bearable.
You know, as long as we're talking about the distance and stuff, have we ever sent out a distance requirement, Chief, to all of our businesses, handle propane, what distance they can be from structures? They should know that, but they're the ones that place those tanks. The individual owner can't place those tanks. If we haven't done that, we need to do that. That's a concern because they have to comply with the distances because LP gas, the rest of them, feral gas, all those need to know those rules, and I don't know if they've ever received them.
So that
Chief.
is adopted, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
So that is adopted under the Uniform Fire Code, which the city of Virginia has adopted under the Minnesota.
So it's their responsibility then to look at that code and then make sure we don't send out anything, because they send out stuff on safety of all the propane to every owner that has propane
So
and all
before
that
it's-
stuff.
Before it's placed, there is a 25-foot setback requirement. That was not followed in this case, therefore it is in violation of where it should be placed.
Well, who's responsible? And the company that should be responsible.
Property owner is responsible for what's on their property. It would behoove a property or a placement company not to place it in a place that's illegal, but ultimately it lies within the property owners.
Well, they shouldn't be allowed to place something that's illegal either. The business shouldn't be allowed to do that. I know you have strict rules on the lakes and stuff where you can place those things, and it's up to the company to place them. That's a catch-22 where you can't put everything on the property owner. The business should have some responsibility where to place those things. And there's an access sometimes for those tanks because you got equipment that has to haul those bigger tanks in. And if you can't get in through the back alley, you gotta do something different. Because there's some space problems there, so we need to look at that, chief, is all I'm saying. Just to see, because I don't think the ownership for the distance should be totally the owners. That's my personal opinion. Even, you know, how many laws are in this state of Minnesota that you don't know and I don't know, and we can get drilled for? I had an example of one for a trespass, and nobody knew what the fine was until they got the fine in the mail. It was $185. It was a friend of mine. Okay. So they don't know. You can look it up, it doesn't tell you what the fine is. It tells you that you will receive it back in the mail once you sign the paper and send it in to the courts. Crazy.
Just quickly, for this particular issue, in the minutes, it does say that Jessica Letts indicated the natural gas has yet to come to the area, but was told possibly this fall it would be available. She stated she had to get heat to the house because she didn't have any to prevent mold due to all the water damage she got, so she got a propane tank. She indicated she was told by the public utilities that the propane tank could be placed in the front yard. And she stated that she planned to have it removed after the natural gas comes to the area. That's why the plan was submitted. I think maybe that clarifies things a little bit for everybody. Good, thank you. Thanks, Chief. Okay, moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed, motion carries. Thank you. We'll move to item 9, committee reports. Item 9.1, the Personnel Committee that was held on July 30th, 2019. And I'll turn this portion of the City Council meeting over to our City Administrator, Britt C. Bennis. Britt?
Thank you. On the July 30th Personnel Committee meeting, we conducted interviews for the VITA Board and the Planning and Zoning Commission. It was moved and supported to approve the appointment of Mr. Kevin Kubat to the VITA Board to fill the remaining balance of a 6-year term, which ends December 31st, 2020.
Also move.
Moved by Councilor Baraboo and supported by Councilor Paulson to approve the appointment of Mr. Kevin Kubat to the VITA Board to fill the remaining balance of the 6-year term ending in December 31st, 2020. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed, motion carries.
It was moved and supported to appoint Mr. Don Bird to the remainder of the 3-year planning and zoning term, which ends February 1st, 2021, and then to appoint Mr. Jamie Winger to the remainder of the 3-year planning and zoning term, which ends February 1st, 2022. And I suggest we take them separately. So first would be the Mr. Don Bird planning and zoning term, that which ends February 1st, 2021.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to object,
Moved by Councilor Barnzelli. Is there support?
the appointment.
Support by Councilor Friedlieb. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed, motion carries.
The next motion would be Mr. Jamie Winger, appointed to the Planning and Zoning Commission for a 3-year term ending February 1st, 2022.
Move the appointment of Jamie Winger to the 3-year appointment.
Moved by Councilor Johnson to appoint. Is there support? Support by Councilor Friedlieb. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed, motion carries.
And before we adjourn that meeting, I'd like to just point out, we still have commission openings on our Evelyn, Virginia Airport Authority and our Human Rights Commission. If anybody's interested, you can contact City Hall or visit our website to apply. And Charter Commission. Thank you, Pam.
Yes, Charter Commission, Human Rights Commission,
And Evelyn, Virginia
Evelyn,
Airport.
Virginia Airport Commission. Thank you.
Thank you. That was all from that meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Item 9.2, the Committee of the Whole that was held on August 6, 2019. Turn this over to our City Administrator, Britt C. Bennett. Britt?
Thank you. We had Vice Mayor Charlie Baraboo running the meeting on August 6, 2019. Mr. Chris Erickson, owner of Lakeview Place, which is commonly known as the Hometown Focus Building at 401 6th Avenue North, was present to discuss the freezing of a sewer line last winter, which caused a massive backup of steam into his building, which melted all the pipes they had just placed in there. So unfortunately, we were looking at ways to remediate that, and with the investigation that we conducted, we had found that there's a sewer line that runs from a manhole kind of near the Bailey's Lake, across the street, under the street, to a manhole in front of 401 6th Avenue North. And we have no documentation at this time that the city actually placed the line, which is not uncommon. So we concluded it was probably run by the mills way back when the lumber mills were going active. So Mr. Erickson's request was that the city consider taking ownership of that sewer line from the manhole in front of 401 6th Avenue North to our manhole across the street near Bailey's Lake in order for us to start maintaining and ensuring that it does not freeze. It was moved and supported to authorize city staff to formalize the city ownership of this line and the responsibility for that sewer line that services 401 6th Avenue North from the city manhole to the main, and to prioritize replacement of the manhole in 2019.
So moved.
Moved by Counselor Johnson to approve that finalization of the transfer of the line. Is there support? You can. Sure.
Okay, I'll support.
Support by Counselor Bearable. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Emily Major of SEH reviewed change order number 1 that we received for the Midway Drive project, which is an unusual change order in that it decreases the cost of the project. We don't see those very often. It was moved and supported to approve the resolution approving change order number 1 for Midway Drive Improvement Project, decreasing the amount of the contract with Casper Construction by $19,983.15.
I will move the decrease in change order.
Moved by Counselor Johnson. Is there support? Support by Counselor Barnzelli. Is there any further discussion?
I would just like to point out the decrease was due to pipe size being adjusted to what we actually need versus what we spec'd out.
Okay, so pipe size
Nothing
adjustment.
that anybody would notice.
Not of the generosity of the contractor.
Correct.
All right, thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
The Committee of the Whole heard the recommendation from Planning and Zoning for the naming of the new plat, which would be at the 2nd Avenue, 9th Street North, as recommended, the Finntown Flyway Business Park. It was moved and supported to approve that naming of that plat as the historic Finntown Flyway addition to Virginia.
Do we have a motion?
Yes,
A motion
I'll-
by Counselor Beyondich. Is there support?
Mayor, can I support this being an Italian? You think it's got any effect?
You know, I think it would behoove you to speak from your heart.
I will support this.
He's supported by Counselor Barnzelli. Is there any further discussion?
Carl, that's called diversity of ethnicity.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
In the 2019 legislature, the city was graciously granted a DNR grant for the environmental and site design of Bailey Lakes Trail Improvement Project, and it was moved and supported to authorize signing the grant agreement in the amount of $550,000 for this very exciting project around Bailey's Lake.
Yes.
I'll move to approve.
Moved by Counselor Paulson to approve and supported by Counselor Johnson. Is there any further discussion? I want to thank Britt for going down and we went down and testified before the committee for the LCCMR grant, which is rarely that we ever get anything from the north. We made you made a very good presentation, and so we were successful. So thank Britt for that.
Very excited.
Moving that forward. Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
It was moved and supported to approve the agreement with SEH Engineering for professional services for engineering and site design of the Bailey Lake Improvement Project in the amount of $64,125.
Also move, Mayor.
Moved by Counselor Bearable to approve. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Counselor Johnson. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Johnson.
And that amount is covered by the grant, correct?
That is correct. Yeah.
Thank you.
The grant is a 100% grant. There is no matching requirement, although we did plan to put some funds into the project.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
The Committee of the Whole discussed the request for proposals for a grant administrator for the Downtown Redevelopment Program. The city, if approved, will be seeking proposals from firms or people to act as a grant administrator for Downtown Redevelopment Program, and we are asking at this time for approval for that,
Move forward with the RFP.
with RFP to
Thank you.
find the firms or people interested.
Move to seek those RFP proposals for that grant administrator by Counselor Freely. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Counselor Paulson. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion was held regarding the B'nai Abraham Synagogue and the potential for the City of Virginia to obtain ownership of the building. It was moved and supported to reconvene a meeting with the Friends of the B'nai Synagogue and invite other entities that may be a resource in regards to collaboration and conveyance of the property to the City of Virginia. And I have spoken to the representatives from the B'nai Synagogue, and we have suggested September 27th at 1 p.m. for a meeting date.
September 27th?
September 27th.
At 1 p.m.
1 p.m. at City Hall.
Okay, thank you. Is that a Tuesday?
It's a Friday.
Friday at 1 p.m.? Perfect. I mean, for me, but, so it was moved and supported at committee level?
Yes.
Okay, do I have a motion from the council?
I will move that we continue discussions and invite other entities to have discussion about the building.
Thank you. Moved by Councilor Johnson. Is there support? Support by Councilor Freely. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Beyondich.
Yes, I thought this was going to be more for other entities and not for the city to acquire. Is that correct?
Correct. And our intent is to invite the other entities to this meeting on September 27th to try to facilitate a discussion.
So the city of Virginia will not be looking to own this, or
That has not been made by motion yet. It has been directed to reconvene this meeting, discussing possible conveyance options with other parties.
And I just have to make one other comment. I found it very interesting that we sat here tonight and we agreed with the Easta Properties on what was recommended, but yet we are not taking the recommendation of the people who worked on this particular project.
Well, there might be some statutory use with respect to the restricted use of that property. So I think the goal and objective of the September 27th meeting, I think, Councilor Beyondich, is to vet all those things out, to find out what the options are, to determine if the city can help facilitate that. I think part of that discussion, part of that discussion is the fact that it is a historic site.
Correct.
And we want to try to help preserve that in some way, whether it's a private entity or something else, or a collaborative of some sort moving forward. And as you recall, it is a historic site, and so there was significant concern about the historic site that's over here, about why we didn't do something about it, why the city didn't get involved, why didn't the city help facilitate that? And now they're going to tear it down. Well, we didn't own the facility. We didn't have an opportunity for that, but we do have an opportunity to help preserve some historic site here. And I think the city has an obligation to help facilitate the salvage and the transfer, or some type of a collaborative with some private or public entity of some sort to help preserve that facility. And I think I agree that, it likely the city may or may not, be part of ownership of that property. I think the purpose of that September 27th discussion is to look at the compromises that this Friends have made, and what can be done, and what avenues that we can pursue. I know you had some significant discussion at the committee meeting about that, so I don't think any decisions have been made about that, but I think once after that September 27th meeting, I would think that we'd have a more clear path moving forward. So, and that may answer all your questions, Councilor Beyondich.
So it reads at a meeting to discuss city acquisition. That's what the motion is. So is it for the city to acquire this, or is it a meeting to facilitate other entities into this?
Who made the motion at the committee of the whole meeting?
I did.
Friedlieb,
And who supported it?
Beyondich.
Beyondich.
So what was the goal and objective of setting the meeting then, how, in that regard?
I thought what it was to facilitate with other entities that may be interested, not necessarily for the city to acquire this property.
That is the intent is that when I expressed to the Benai friends that we are going to be inviting other parties with us to talk about how we may help with conveyance of this property to somebody.
And that part I agree with. I don't agree with city acquisition.
Right.
Would you read the motion back, please, from the committee of the whole meeting?
Moved by Counselor Friedlieb, supported by Counselor Beyondich, to reconvene a meeting with the Friends of the Beinei Synagogue and invite other entities that may be a resource in regards to collaboration and conveyance of the properties to the city of Virginia.
Okay, that would be the motion. Right?
It is, but can we, I mean, the way it's written here that we are discussing, it is with the city of Virginia to discuss city acquisition. We need to make it clear, actually to the general public, that this is not for the city of Virginia, but we are helping to facilitate for other entities that are interested.
Yeah, I think that that's one of the goals and objectives of this meeting, but the other part of it is that no decision has been made whether the city should acquire it or not. Now, there's counselors that don't think we should acquire it. There's other counselors that think that we should acquire it and then try to use whatever stipend they're giving, get a development agreement together. So all those things still have to be vetted out. And I think the goal and objective of the September 27th meeting is to accomplish that very goal. I mean, I know I've begun to coffee shops and where I've had citizens say, no way should the city acquire this property. I think the purpose of this meeting is to find what that clear path is going to be. So whether there's some discussion about acquiring it or not acquiring it, or what your motion was at your committee of the whole meeting, is to try to facilitate other entities moving forward. I think after that meeting, we'll likely make that decision, but your point is well taken.
Okay, as long as it includes the other entities.
So what is the motion that was made just now for tonight's meeting? Was there a motion made yet?
Yes.
Okay. So who made the motion?
Counselor Johnson, supported by Counselor Fried.
So yes, please.
And my motion did not have the conveyance to the city of Virginia in it. That was not, it's to have a meeting about the property. There should, my motion that I would make would not include the final half dozen words conveyance of the property to the city of Virginia. That is not my intention in my motion. It's to have a meeting with the Friends of the Synagogue and others who may be interested in acquiring it. I do not want to the city of Virginia as part of my motion at this time.
Yeah, let's reflect that in the minutes. I think that was in your motion early on in the committee of the whole meeting as well. So the same motion from committee would be carried over to the motion in tonight's agenda. Is that correct?
No, Counselor Friedlieb made the motion as it's written at the committee of the whole meeting. I'm making a different motion this evening that does not include the conveyance to the city of Virginia.
Okay.
Steve, maybe you want to, Councilor Johnson, maybe you want to restate your motion again one more time for the record.
Yes, please do.
Certainly. So I would move that the city of Virginia facilitate a meeting with the Friends of the Synagogue and other interested entities so that we can help in a collaboration to convey the property to an interested party.
Okay, very good. And is there a second to that motion?
I would second that motion if the potential still exists for that potential party to be the city of Virginia, Minnesota. Okay.
And I'm not excluding the city by no means, but I want to make sure that we're not, I understand Councilor Beyondich's point is that the wording sounds like it's directing towards a finite, and I think that we need to have a wide open resolve.
So we have this is a clarification of the motion, and that's the motion that is clarified correctly?
Yes.
And seconded by Councilor Friedlieb? Councilor Friedlieb.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Maya, that like tonight we agreed to 3 different things that were brought to us by a commission. And I think the difference there, at least in my mind, is oftentimes when the Planning and Zoning Commission gets together, for example, they're sitting across the table from the person, or that person's there conveying the information, why they haven't, what they need to do, and so on. There's that communication. And the communication that we had initially with the Friends of B'nai Abraham, they were very convincing to me in terms of like what we could do with this building and how it potentially could benefit this city. And so I thought that maybe the commission, the Park and Rec Commission, not having had that opportunity and that privilege and pleasure actually to meet with the Friends of B'nai Abraham, to hear them out and make a more informed decision after having heard and maybe even toured the building to see what's been done there. I think it would give them more information in regard to then coming forward with maybe another recommendation. But I don't think that they had the time or took the time to be able to do that. And that's why I made the motion to let's reconvene, have some other people that haven't had the privilege to go there and see what's been done there, to look at it, see it, talk to these people, and talk about like reining in some of the stipulations that were mentioned at that meeting previously too, that could stifle the possibility of utilizing it in a certain way in the city. And not discounting the possibility of some other entity taking it over whatsoever. I mean, there's potentially other entities that may be much more successful at taking over a building like that and utilizing it in a way that benefits the city beyond the city itself taking ownership of that building. So I don't want to dismiss or discount in any way whatsoever what the Planning and Zoning Commission came and recommended to us. I just don't think they fully had the opportunity to meet those people, tour the facility, and see all that it had to offer to this city. So that's what made me say, maybe we need to meet again, include some more people, and have further discussion. So that's where we're at.
And I think Park and Recreation made that decision only based on rental things for Park and Recreation, not any other uses. So that was a limited discussion with respect to that as well. So, yes, Councilor Freely.
And if I could add, it's like Brian did take the time to put some numbers together, and those preliminary numbers were a little bit eye-opening in terms of like, are we going to run another facility in the city in deficit spending year after year after year? And so I appreciated him doing that. But again, I think there's still further conversation that needs to be had in terms of like what this building can do to benefit the residents within the city of Virginia. I think there's a lot of potential still for that to occur, whether it's through the city or combined with other entities in and around the city to pull that off. So that's where I'm at with that. And I hope we can get together, meet with them on the 27th, and move forward in whatever degree we agree is necessary.
Yeah, thank you, Councilor Freely. Councilor Paulson.
Mayor, so without, I guess, hashing out the whole committee, the whole meeting, I'm looking forward to the September 27th meeting where hopefully more entities and more parties can be involved in having this discussion. But the way that I see it, there's ownership, there's maintenance, and then there's programming. So it's a multi-pronged approach, and I just wanted to report back that I did reach out to one of the commissioners, I guess you'd call it a commissioner, on the Discovery Board. So I'm waiting to hear back because I feel like the Discovery Center would be very ideal in terms of programming for this specific entity. And as far as the ownership goes and maintenance and financial obligations, I feel like that will be the discussion that we have on the 27th, which I'm looking forward to having. But I really appreciate you clarifying that because I've gotten a lot of feedback myself on, on a lot from the community, so I appreciate you just having that clarified. But I think as we go forward, we need to, take all sides into consideration and be open. But I do feel like it's a multi-pronged approach, so.
Yeah, thank you, Councilor Paulson. Well said. Anybody else have anything? Yes, Councilor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. I was going to point out too that, we did get a nice explanation from the practical side of Parks and Rec that Brian did a great job on. But one of the other things that was discussed at the Committee of the Whole meeting is looking at the bigger picture and taking a step back as organizations age out and their local support dwindles, the city looking at having a policy of accepting donations of property and buildings as we move forward. And I think that's something that is really important. There are other congregations and other historical church buildings or private buildings owned by nonprofits that are eventually may get into that same situation. And I think we have to establish some guidelines to do that. So once we take this vote, Mayor, if I might, I would like to make a motion according for that as we move forward.
Okay, thank you. All right. Anybody else?
I have a.
Okay,
comment-
Counselor Bearable.
Comment on that.
Yeah.
You know, this whole situational thing is going to open up a whole huge can of worms in this city. Now, it's publicly known because we've sent out letters to the church that I belong to, which is Our Savior's Lutheran Church, that the city is interested in that piece of property. And we sent out letters to all our congregation, one from our church council and one from the pastor. And every member of our church has gotten that letter to see where it's going to go, but it's just in the testimony, whatever you want to call it, infant stages. That's a better word. On there. So there's interest. So what happens there? There's another religious piece of property. This one's not deemed religious anymore. So what kind of cans of worms do we open up in this? It's going to be an interesting scenario. Then you got Gethsemane sitting there that because the Gethsemane, our saviors and Messiah are looking at potential combining. Potential, I'm saying, it may not ever happen. So there's going to be more property maybe available.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Freely.
Just one more comment.
Yep,
You know,
no
we had an incredible grassroots initiative that was started in this city where they raised in excess of $500,000 to restore and revitalize and rehabilitate the Alcott Park Fountain. And that was a wonderful thing that was done for this city. And the city, of course, did not get off scot-free with the opening of that fountain because there's still maintenance that needs to be done. There's winterization that needs to be done. There's grass cutting that needs to be done and so on and so forth. Granted, it's located within the park, but I guess the point I'm trying to make is that we have another group that has taken the initiative and done a grassroots opportunity or effort to restore and rehabilitate and rehabilitate and renovate an incredibly historical facility in the city as well, and is willing to gift that to the city in some capacity, whether or not we're the rightful ones that should gain ownership of that, yet to be determined, I think. And so I think it's going to be valuable to have that meeting with other entities involved, other ears there listening, and maybe we can make a better informed decision in terms of what direction to take on behalf of these people that have heartfelt feelings towards their hometown city and have invested significantly on behalf of all of us in this city to provide us with a facility that could be used in really somewhat remarkable ways in the future, particularly educationally from my standpoint. So the meeting's set, and I think we move forward with that. So thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Bionich.
And I think, Mr. Baraboo, that what you're saying is partially true and may happen is we will be approached by many different entities. And being a member of Cullivahall, their population is not getting any bigger. And that's another historic building. So we really need to look at things wisely and see how things will fall into place. Because once we open the door, be ready.
Well, I think we are ready. I think we are trying to do our due diligence and setting this meeting on the 27th will help us provide more, more clarity on what direction we want to go. And there's a lot of things I could say, I'll save for the building, but I do want to say one thing, is that we have art in this community, we have entertainment in this community, we have lakes and trails in this community, and we have a historic downtown, we have a historic plat. Everybody wants the word historic because we want to preserve history. Well, what better opportunity for us to preserve history? This is a historic building. And so I think we have an obligation to help facilitate in some way the preservation of the building. How that vets out, I don't know, but we have to be involved in helping to preserve it. I think that's important. And if the Cullivahall went down, that's a historic, we'd want to do our involvement too, if they asked us to become involved, to help facilitate the preservation of that building. Do we want to tear down every historic building when there's no entity available? I don't think so. But I think the September 27th meeting will help us vet all that out. So I think there's some really great discussion on both sides. And I've had a lot of calls on both sides of the fence. So and I think it's a good motion and second moving forward, and we'll see how that goes, as Councilor Friedlieb says. So any other discussion on this, on the motion to set the meeting for September the 27th at 1 p.m.? Friday, September 27th. No further discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. It was moved and supported to approve the purchase of equipment for the fire department under the USAR grant in the amount of $7,146.56. And this is various tools and equipment to be put in the trailer.
I'll move to approve.
Moved by Councilor Paulson to approve. Is there support? Support by Councilor Bonzelli. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
It was moved and supported to approve the resolution authorizing entering into a 2-year contract with Pace Analytical Services for wastewater treatment testing services for the city of Virginia.
Also move, Mayor.
Moved by Councilor Bearable. Is there support? Support. Support by Councilor Friedlieb. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
It was moved and supported to approve the request for a street closure of the 100 block of 4th Street South and 1st Avenue South from 3rd Street to 5th Street for a car, truck, and bike show on Saturday, September 7th, 2019, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
I'll move the closure of the streets.
Moved by Councilor Johnson. Is there support? Support by Councilor Friedlieb. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
It was moved and supported to approve the request from First Covenant Church for the placement of a handicap parking sign near their handicapped entrance on 3rd Avenue South.
So moved.
I'll support.
Moved by Councilor Johnson, support by Councilor Bearable. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Johnson.
Mayor, this is actually, they're moving the handicap spot. from-
Relocating, yeah.
Relocating due to their addition of a lift in their facility.
Thank you for that clarification. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
It was moved and supported to approve the leave of absence request from Virginia firefighter Ella Rose Keefs for up to 6 months starting on July 24th, Chief? Single roll, thank you.
Thank you.
Move the leave.
Moved by Councilor Johnson to approve the leave. Is there support?
I'll support for discussion.
Okay, support by Councilor Bearable for discussion. Further discussion. Councilor Bearable.
I'm assuming, Chief, that benefits and stuff will be paid by the individual, correct? Like health benefits, et cetera?
Yes, if it's an unpaid leave, so if she so chooses to have benefits from the city, she'd be responsible for the 100% of the benefits.
But if she has accumulation of vacation and all that stuff, she can't use that either,
There's no
correct?
accumulation of anything. We're
Okay.
just basically holding a spot for her in the single role.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, thank you. Moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Virginia Fire Marshal Chris Clark presented to the council a revised ordinance regarding fire pits in the city of Virginia. It was moved and supported to approve the changes to the city ordinance, Chapter 10, Section 10.31 regarding recreational fires. This is the first reading.
I'll move the first reading.
Support.
Move the first reading by Councilor Bearable and supported by Councilor Johnson. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
It was moved and supported to post the position of Public Works Director externally as per our city hiring policy.
Moved by Councilor Friedlieb. Is there support? Support by Councilor Paulson. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
The committee reviewed our existing personnel policy, Section 3, entitled Harassment Policy, which was adopted in 2000. Changes have been made to the policy and to incorporate current statute requirements. It has been renamed to Respectful Workplace Policy. It was moved and supported to approve the Respectful Workplace Policy in lieu of our current harassment policy with noted additions.
Excellent. Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Moved by Councilor Friedlieb. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Councilor Johnson. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
It was moved and supported to approve the proposal from Sean Simperman to purchase city parcel Block 2, Lot 3. I think it's Lot 3, Block 2. Did I get that right, Pam? Fairview 3rd Edition, parcel code 090-0074-00070 in the Fairview Edition up on North Side, and this is a first reading as well.
Move the first reading.
Moved by Counselor Paulson and supported by Counselor Johnson. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Bearable.
Britt, don't we have to, in that type of thing, put the price in there too? It's not in there, isn't that a requirement?
Yes, on the resolution should be in your packet. It's $30,000
I
for
didn't
the,
go down to the resolution. Yeah, you're right, it's in the resolution.
Okay, thank you. Moved and supported. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
it was moved and supported to table the adoption of the resolution authorizing the City of Virginia to participate in the Minnesota Green Step Cities program until more information is presented. And Amoresco has been invited to a council meeting. I do not have verification yet, but they are coming to either the last one in August or the first one in September. So they'll be here soon. So there's no action needed on that item.
Excellent. Thank you.
Mr. Bradley Peterson of the Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities came and gave an update on the 2019 legislative session. Local government aid was a big topic during the session, and thankfully funding was increased back to the 2002 levels, so many cities did see an increase in their LGA. Child care grants were a big discussion at the legislature. Additional funding for the PFA programs was not allocated, and there was no new transportation bill funds approved. It was moved and supported to authorize city representatives to execute the grant documents for Phase 2 of the Eveleth, Virginia Municipal Airport Federal Aviation Grant for the reconstruction of the apron at the airport.
Also move.
Moved by Counselor Bearable. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Counselor Johnson. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Britt, can we move up to Q?
I did see that, thank you. It was moved and supported. It was actually just discussion, I'm looking for resolution. We met with representatives from the city of Bowabic, and regarding the ambulance service contract we have with them, it expires tomorrow. And so they have asked for a 30-day extension while they work on their budget, and they will come back to us shortly.
Okay, thank you. And that was moved and supported at committee
There
level?
was no motion made, it was just a discussion. I came in very late.
And do we need a motion?
We do need a motion
would
to
need a
extend their
motion
contract for
that.
30 days.
I'll move to approve a 30-day extension for the renewal of the ambulance service contract.
Thank you. Moved by Counselor Paulson, supported by Counselor Barnzelli. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
It was moved and supported to request staff to evaluate the cost of televising the committee of the whole meetings and present to the council.
Make that motion.
Moved by Counselor Johnson, supported by Counselor Beyondich. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Beyondich. Oh, okay. Further discussion? Counselor Barnzelli.
Mayor, or Councilor Bearable, has that ever been televised? Committee of the whole? Never.
Well, not unless there's a special one that has been requested to be televised. I remember a couple over the years, but no, we've never routinely televised.
Well, we're looking at to evaluate the cost about that, and then I suppose, once we get the cost, we'll determine if that's feasible to do.
Feasible to do. That's, technically, that's where we do a lot of our business, so, people just hear the synopsis when they get to the council. So we need to look at that cost.
It's been moved and supported to do so. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Johnson.
And part of that is now we have the ability to live stream, which would not mean interrupting regular public access. We could just live stream and have it that way too, and then it would be archived and people would have access to it in the future. I think it's just another great way of us being able to be transparent and accountable to the people who elect us every couple of years. So that's why we made a motion to have it looked into.
Thank you. Moved and
I've
supported.
had some questions for that meeting, so
Further discussion? Counselor Bearable.
I'll bring it to the meeting.
Oh, okay, very good. Thank you. Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, and that is all I have from that meeting.
Thank you, Britt, very much. Okay, we'll move to item 10, the commission liaison and department head reports. let's go to department head reports first. Do you have anything more you'd like to add?
Sure. Since we're talking about televising city meetings, I would like to happily report that we do have a YouTube channel, the City of Virginia, MN on YouTube, and you can now see our council meetings on there. So if you don't have Mediacom cable and you want to see what our council meetings look like, you can visit us on YouTube.
Fantastic.
Yeah. It is exciting, yeah. Yeah. And that's all I have.
Your tube, our tube, YouTube.
YouTube. City of Virginia. If you search that on YouTube, you should find our channel.
Just under City of Virginia, because I've had a lot of people that have satellite and the rest of it asking about that.
It's very common that many people that don't have Mediacom don't get to see us on public access.
There's a lot of them in Virginia.
There's a lot of them, yes, yes. Yes.
Pam, anything? Sherry, nothing? Okay, good. Okay, fantastic. Does any counselor have a report or a comment or anything they'd like to make before we go to the mayor's report? Counselor Johnson?
There were 9 people watching us tonight on YouTube, so it is being populated. There's a little bit of a delay, but also I would like to go back to, I would like to make a motion to direct staff to begin working on a property donation when it comes to historic buildings policy for the city moving forward.
Just historic buildings or all buildings?
Donations to the city in general when it comes to property and buildings.
Any building?
Yeah, because of just needing to be able to have some, just like we have a donation policy, I think it'd be a good thing to have an acceptance policy too as we move forward.
But it's all buildings, not just historic buildings?
Correct,
Okay,
all buildings
okay.
and property.
Okay, yes, moved by Counselor Johnson. Is there support? Support by Counselor Beyondich. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Bearable?
Yes, if we end up with a policy, but we need to put that caveat statement in there. If we decide right of refusal in any of those properties, if we don't want them, make sure that's in that policy because.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, okay. Because there are some things that people are just going to want to dump on us and if we go forward with a positive on that.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed, motion carries. Well, I had a list of things, but it's been a long meeting, so I'd just like to make 2 quick announcements. First, I'll be going down to the legislature on Thursday to a legislative meeting, fundraiser or whatever, at Canterbury Downs. I have some scheduled meetings with our lobbyists and a couple other legislatures with respect to the public safety building. We'll be talking about that a little bit. They've carved out some time for me to do that, so I'll bring in some of those little cards down and I'll bring back a report in that regard. So it's Thursday evening from 5 to 8, I think, so I'll be going down for that. And I apologize for not being at the Committee of the Whole meeting last week, but I did have the opportunity by invitation from Cliff's President and CEO, Lorenzo Gonzalez, to go down to the ribbon cutting for their new DRI pelletizing plant, which is the only one in the nation that does this. A $900 million investment, and we got to take a chance to take the tour. And I got a chance to talk to Congressman Stauber, Representative Liz Lagarde, Mark Phillips from the IIIB, a lot of people with respect to mining in Cliffs and how that affects the city of Virginia, particularly with the Nashwauk site. And so it was an honor for me to be down there representing the city. And Lorenzo Gonzalez, the president and CEO, pulled me aside, as he does with a lot of people, and said, thank you to the city of Virginia, to your city council, and all your community up there for supporting Cliffs as we move forward. And I thank them for their generosity and how moving forward with their, they've been very generous in supporting the fountain and other projects in the city of Virginia and the surrounding communities, and they're investing in their community and their employees. So that was really nice of him to say. So that's being said, I don't have anything else to bring up before the city council this evening. Does anybody else have anything else you'd like to bring up before we adjourn for this evening? Seeing none, we will adjourn the city council meeting. It is 7:20 p.m. and we will adjourn to the next meeting, which is scheduled for Tuesday, October 27th at 5:30 here at City Hall.
Mayor, I will be absent from that.
I'm sorry, what did I say? Ooh.
August. You said October.
I'll be gone in August, excuse me. Okay, let me rephrase. 67 years old, sometimes, things happen. Okay, we'll adjourn to Tuesday, August 27th, 2019 at 5:30. Thank you, everybody. Have a great week, and we stand adjourned.